Does VR porn improve your sperm quality? How about that? I have an article about this. This article was published in Reproductive Biology and Endocrinology, and it's called Effects of VR Porn, or not porn, Effects of VR Erotica, that means porn, on ejaculate quality of sperm donors, a balanced and randomized controlled crossover within subjects trial by Doctors Rosenkar and colleagues. So this study was published in 2022. And basically what this was a sperm bank. And they wanted to see how they might improve the quality of sperm from their sperm donors.
Yeah, very important.
It is.
Yeah.
And so typically in sperm banks, what they have guys do is ejaculate to porn. But now some brilliant person here at the sperm bank in Denmark realized that virtual reality porn actually, for many people, it's more exciting than old-fashioned two-dimensional porn. And so they were wondering, well, will this improve the quality of sperm in our donors? Because, in a sperm donation bank, the quality of sperm is super important.
Absolutely.
So now they got, I think 62 men to participate in this study. And to participate, they had to agree to offer at least 6 ejaculations, 3 of which were done with old-fashioned porn. They put the guy in
Two-dimensional.
Yeah, two-dimensional porn. Yeah. They put the guy in a room and, they say, go for it. And then, bring your ejaculate out, right? And 3 of these had to be with VR porn. And so, but some of the guys did more than 6 donations, and they had a total of 504 ejaculates. Yeah, samples to
those guys.
And they found...
Before we start, a small disclaimer. The Sex Doctors podcast is not a substitute for medical or psychological advice.
Welcome to the Sex Doctors, featuring Dr. Marianne Brandon, clinical psychologist and diplomate in sex therapy, and Dr. Abraham Morgentaler, renowned urologist and expert in sexual medicine and testosterone therapy. Together, they bring you expert insights into sex, intimacy, and relationships. Let's dive in.
A 50% increase in sperm concentration. What's the right term for that?
Well, the parameter they're looking for is total modal sperm count. How many of those sperm are actually
swimming around? Yeah. 50% increase when the guys were, particularly when they had a brief time between ejaculates.
Right. Now,
so I'm going to explain this and I'll tell you my take and you tell me if you agree or not. Okay. So what they found was if the time between ejaculates was like 14 hours or less, then VR porn was the clear winner in terms of producing mobile sperm, right? But if it got delayed for days, or I'm not even sure how long but the longer the period between ejaculates, the less impressive was the VR motility compared to the motility of sperm in the 2D porn, right? So my take on this, and they were speculating like, why might this be?
Yeah.
But my take is if they had an orgasm within 14 hours, they're not that horny, right?
Less horny.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the VR porn, they needed that to produce something of quality. And if they had old fashioned porn, 2D porn, their sperm wasn't that impressive in terms of motility. Now, if they had days between ejaculate, they were more horny.
Yeah.
Right? So they didn't really need the help of the VR to produce a good quality ejaculate.
Right. Yeah.
Is that your take too?
Right. So I don't know if you know this, but I actually used to run a sperm bank. And it was for the hospital. We're going back 30 years or so. And what happens is that you want to get adequate quality of the sperm, adequate number of samples. And so we used to try and standardize it. And we would tell people, we want you to abstain for 2 to 3 days. That was usually the period. We didn't want it longer. We didn't want it shorter because shorter period of time gave you fewer sperm. Longer period of time gave you often more sperm, but they didn't swim as well. There was some older sperm that had stopped swimming.
Older sperm. They stop swimming. What do? They're still alive? They're just like floating?
Nobody has 100% swimming sperm. So, 50% or more is usually considered good.
So the old ones just float? I mean, you don't
No, they're not doing
respond.
much. Men are into quantity and not quality.
Yeah.
Millions and millions of sperm.
Yes.
So, and all we had were magazines. Like, people need help. So it's awkward to provide a sample in a lab or healthcare kind of setting, right? So we would give them magazines like Playboy or something like that. And now they have movies. So they're like porn. So, and I think that your interpretation is exactly right, that there's something about VR porn that is more exciting, so that refractory period, the time where it's harder for a guy to actually get an erection and have an orgasm. Well, this is interesting. Okay, hope you settle down soon, Ace. Yeah, find a comfortable place. Yeah, okay.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So, when there's a briefer time, the more intense experience can overcome the lack of enthusiasm that the man may have.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And as time goes on, that urge has built up, and probably doesn't matter what they do.
Yeah, they're pretty much going to have a good time.
Yeah. Almost anything will trigger what they need. Yeah. So I think that's really interesting. And, to me, I really enjoy our discussions about the interaction of technology and sexuality and relationships.
Yeah.
And this seems to me a very practical way to improve, enhance sperm quality and numbers for fertility. We forget sex is actually the way that we make babies. I mean, that's its original design, not just for humans, but for all animals. And so here's a way that get a more intense experience. And of course, VR is a whole new world unto itself, right?
Right.
So Apple's come out with its glasses, and Meta really made a big bet that VR is going to be the way of the future. I went the other day to get my eyes examined, for glasses prescription, and they put on a VR headset. Oh, yeah? To me, and they did some kind of manipulation and testing. It was very clever. They said, make sure to talk to your doctor about the results. Of course, the doctor never mentioned the results of that test, but that's another day. But it's coming in all these different fields.
Right, right. So what I thought was interesting, so I'm curious your reaction, is that the guys here at the sperm bank were already, superstar donors. Like, you can't get admitted into a sperm bank, right? Unless you have pretty good swimmers, right? And so that does make me wonder, for guys who are like dealing with infertility, isn't it within the realm of possibility that if they watched VR porn, it might amp up the quality of their sperm?
You mean while they're having intercourse?
Well, I'm thinking before, but maybe while. I'm just thinking, like, if a guy is dealing with infertility, is it worth exploring whether or not they can produce a better quality ejaculate with VR?
What an interesting idea, Dr. Brett.
Always.
What about a situation where some guys are freaked out, right? Where they actually have trouble having sex for the purpose of making a baby, right? Like, whatever their issues are.
Yeah.
And whether or not they may agree with it, but there's something psychological, something inhibitory about them, right?
Yeah.
They have trouble getting hard. They may not have trouble having sex with their partner when the time is due. Hey, buddy.
Right.
All right.
Well, it's difficult to get excited on demand, right? Everybody would agree with that.
So what if they incorporated VR porn into the lovemaking?
Like the foreplay or something.
Yeah.
Or actual sex.
Even the event.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's an interesting, we need research on that. It is certainly worth exploring, right?
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah.
So, I think the bottom line is that the VR as a technology is just so powerful, right? And when it's applied to sexuality, that power comes through.
Yeah. So there you have it. I mean, it's stay tuned, because hopefully there'll be some more studies on this. We could talk more about it. I mean, you know what? There's a study that shows that VR porn releases oxytocin in men, where old-fashioned 2D porn doesn't. They show that it releases more dopamine. So there'll be more studies on this, and we'll talk more about it because it really is fascinating.
Yeah. intensity. All right.
Yep.
So listen, if you're out there and you're trying to make babies and you want to improve your quality of sperm, maybe think about doing
Give it a try, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So here comes the end to another podcast of the Sex Doctors. Give us a thumbs up, write us a review, subscribe. We'd love to see you back here for another episode of
The Sex Doctors.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you for listening to The Sex Doctors with Dr. Marianne Brandon and Dr. Abraham Morgentaler. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and tune in next time for more expert advice on sexual health and relationships.
I believe in miracles. Where you from? You sexy thing, you. I believe in miracles. Since you came along.